Hi, we're here in London today, and I have with me the great Arjun Rampal, who needs no introduction. Hi, Arjun. You're very gorgeous as usual. How is London?
Oh, it's fantastic. Thank you, Arti, for having me on your show. And yeah, London's fantastic. You're here. We're all doing interviews, promoting We Are Family. And I think London's definitely like a family for me. You know, all the fans out here stuck with me through good times, bad times. And so yeah, I have a huge family out here, fans in London. So it's wonderful to be here.
Excellent. You've had a very hectic schedule, and I must tell you all that Arjun's been flying around from one city to another, and you've just flown in this morning, isn't it, to London?
I just got in this morning, but it was nice. I was on a Jet Airways flight. They had a bed, so I slept.
So it's all good stuff. So you're here today promoting We Are Family. Before this, we saw you in Rajniti as well, which was a very strong and a very good character, something which we haven't seen you do for a while, actually.
Yeah.
So was that a tough role to do?
Yeah, it was definitely, I think, the toughest role I've ever played. And yeah, it took a lot out of me, but gave me a lot as well as satisfaction. You know, friends on the set, you know, got to know Ranbir, Katrina, Nana, Ajay, Manoj, you know, Prakash, all of us. I mean, I think a great team. Would love to work with all those guys again. Fantastic, great experience.
Excellent. And we've also seen you on a few reality shows as well as a judge and part of the show. And you know, you're stepping in from TV to big screen and small screen again. How does that feel, or is there a certain agenda?
I really did it because I liked that show, Nach Baliye. I really enjoyed watching it, and my kids really enjoyed watching it. So I wasn't working at that point in time, and there was this nice team, and Farah was there, and I'd done Om Shanti Om with her. So, you know, it was easy, and Lolo was on board as well. So I thought they were a nice group of judges, and that something interesting could happen. Yeah. And television is a great medium. I mean, you know, it's a medium which cannot be ignored because it goes out to billions across India. You know, people might so that was the only show really I did, but it was incredible because while I was doing that show, I mean, little kids would run up to me and they said, in Ajwaliya, please can you give that person a little more marks and do this and that. So I felt a bit like a school teacher. But yeah, it was a great experience, and yeah, the staff Parivar was good fun.
It's nice that you mentioned school teacher, actually, because your mother is a school teacher.
Yeah.
And your father is from the army background, I think.
No, my father is not from the army, but both my Nana and Dada, both of them are from the army. They both were brigadiers in the army and very highly decorated. In fact, my Nana had designed the first gun for India.
Right.
Yeah, and he was very highly decorated in the artillery. My father wanted to join the army, but then he broke his back and couldn't. Okay. So he started his own business in Nasik.
So we've got people in the army from the family, someone who's designed the first gun for India. That's not a small thing, with Independence Day coming just around the corner. Yeah. And then, you know, your father doing his own business, mother is a school teacher, and you're in acting. How did that happen?
You know, such is life. C'est la vie. You know, you know, I think certain things are just predestined in life, and from when I could remember as a child, I've always loved the movies. But I used to come back, and those movies used to stay with me for a very long time, you know, and I used to act those parts out and dress like those characters, and, you know, just really live my life like that. And, you know, I thought, and I always had this crazy imagination. Every time I'd get upset or disturbed in life, I would like go and make this make-believe world in my head. Yeah. And do that kind of stuff, and I didn't know that not everybody does that, you know, and I thought everybody did it, you know, and then slowly, I mean, now when I'm acting, I realize that, oh my God, you know, these things were just somewhere there within me, and maybe that's what kind of pushed me through that path. And that's why I chose that path, because I was studying economics in Hindu college, then got into modeling, and then, you know, into acting. So I don't know how it happens. You don't know sometimes, because there's nobody to tell you, oh, this is what you should do if you feel these things. Yeah. And so yeah, it's a slowly kind of the life and, you know, so circumstances and situations kind of just pushed me into that field, and I think I'm very fortunate to be here. And there are millions of people who want to do the same thing, and from that, you know, to be just that few people who get to do what they really enjoy to do. I think I'm extremely fortunate.
I think all the fans are very fortunate as well, otherwise we would never get to see you. So thank God you're not a school teacher. And I also found very interesting about yourself is that you have grown in your career. First from your initial movie Moksha until now, there's been so many different shades of you that the world hasn't seen. So
well, I really did want to do it consciously. I thought that audiences have changed a lot, and really the cinema that you do has to be what you believe in and what you want to go out there and leave behind as your work. I'll be dead and gone one day, but I'll leave behind this work. Or I'll be 75, 80 sitting with my grandchildren, and I don't want them to be giving me tupples on my head when I put in my movies and tell them, oh, this is what I used to do. It should be something which, I feel you can leave behind and feel proud of. So you choose films accordingly, and I just feel that we are in such an interesting era in the Indian film industry, where the audiences are accepting you, to do different kinds of films. Like, for example, that whole era of the villains, where they would just have stereotypical people to cast as those villainous roles, or this or that or the other. It's all gone. Those typecasts are over. Today they want actors, and we represent actors, and not heroes. Okay, actors who they want them to push the envelope and do different things. They know our images. Our images are set through our ads, through interviews, through just social network sites. There's so many different avenues where your image is already set in a person's mind. So what you do from your work perspective really is where your audience wants to see you grow. And I appreciate that from the audience, because if they did not accept that, then we would be stuck doing something different, because it would not be business-wise viable or feasible. But today, you do a Rajniti without any songs, a grounded, hard film where people think in the UK no one's going to watch it, or no one's going to watch it in the US, but people do. Because they like the story and they like to see something new and different today. They're fed up of being given the same thing over and over again.
Definitely, Rajniti was a very different movie, and actually a lot of the UK fans that I know were quite disappointed that you didn't come here for the publicity of the movie. But there was a missed opportunity that everybody never got to see you, because your fans outside of India, they really get to see you. Is there a reason for that?
No, what happens is, when your film releases, there's so many different places that you have to travel to, already. And I think you really go with the genre of the film to different kinds of places. When it came to Rajniti, we would... I think Prakash, who was a producer, it's not in my hands at that point in time. If it was in my hands, I'd come to London all the time. Okay? But with Prakash, he wanted to do the whole Middle East, the Southeast Asia, and take the film to those kind of places as well. And India. So I think, traveled a lot extensively through that phase, through doing promotions in that part. But I think in the future films there's RA1, which is shot here. I'm sure Shah Rukh's going to do a big premiere in London. He loves London. I love London. And we did Om Shanti Om together, and we premiered it here at Leicester Square. So I'm sure we're going to do a similar thing, and it's not very far away.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about your role in We Are Family.
Well, I think he's a character, he's a photographer, he's a husband, We Are Family is a remake of Stepmom, and the original film with Julia Roberts and Susan Sarandon. And similarly, but I think this one is more younger, there's a younger casting, it's got more entertainment. There's this couple that's got married, and they were too young when they got married. They've had kids, but they don't get along, so they decide to separate. He falls in love with somebody else, and then there's a crisis situation kind of that happens, which brings them all together again, and in that there is a growth of all the characters, you know, where the worst thing, sometimes where everything is taken away from you, can sometimes either bring out the worst in you or the best in you. In this situation, it really does bring out the best in everybody. And that's what We Are Family is about. It's about the support that a family really gives, you know, in times of need. Nobody can, you know, and I think those values are more and more, you know, being forgotten. And that's one of the main reasons I did this movie, you know, is because I have a family today. And sometimes I look back and I say, oh my God, I've not been that great a son, you know, because, you know, I get so busy, or a father or a husband and everything, because you get so caught up in so many things in life. And you end up, you know, missing out on so many wonderful things that could happen. You can still just slow down, not miss anything else in your life, okay, but get far more enriched, you know, by just hanging around with the people who are near and dear to you, you know, and creating a bond. And that's what it's about. It's about these bonds that get created, the bonding that happens between everybody.
I also know you're from a Punjabi background as well, and in Punjab, culture is a very strong thing. Tradition is a very strong thing as well. How good is your Punjabi?
My Punjabi is very bad, and because I've never lived in Punjab, you know, I can understand it completely, but to speak it, it's not very good. And I really hate that about me, because, and I would really love to, you know, learn Punjabi properly, but I've never had the opportunity to, because I was born in Jabalpur then, you know, my parents moved to Maharashtra in the small town, so I can speak Marathi, you know, and I can, I'm a Punjabi who speaks Marathi, it's weird, okay, but I've lived in Maharashtra all my life, and then went down south for schooling, you know, and then only went back to the north through my college days. So really I've been out of touch with the Punjabi that is spoken, though I understand it all, and I enjoy the humor, and I enjoy, you know, the passion that Punjabi has when it's spoken. And the words that I know I can't say on television, but okay, but really I think, yeah, so, but yeah, I know my tradition, I know my culture, I know my roots, where I come from. I am like a typical Punjabi, yeah.
So it's pretty good, not bad at all. But then you bring those traditions and that culture in the movie as well, in We Are Family as well.
You know, I mean, tradition and culture and all these things, I think, are nice things to have, but not the only things it has. Tradition and culture and all, you know, the change is inevitable in life. You know, times change. You know, people change. You know, you can't be stuck in a time warp. And I think that's important. And We Are Family also explores that avenue. You know, of going out there and, you know, this lover coming in to the same house, you know, is not really very traditional. Yeah, you know, and they're all living in the same, under the same roof. So that, I think, is not traditional, but it is about beyond that. It's not about the tradition, it's not about the culture. We should know all those things, okay? We should be in touch with all those things. I think it is about love, and it is about, you know, unconditional love. And that, I think, is the most important thing. You know, then you could be in any culture, in any tradition. If there is love, there will be peace. And if there is peace, you know, there will be happiness.
How can there be peace and happiness with two female co-stars? Can you explain that?
Very difficult. You have to go through a huge war before all that happens.
I was going to ask you, how can there be peace and happiness?
Very difficult. It's strongly not recommended. Please don't bring your lovers into your home. Okay, all you men out there. And if you do, then come and watch We Are Family, and I'll show you how it's done.
You show the right way of doing it.
Yeah.
Is there a workshop or a seminar?
We can work on that after the film.
But was it difficult working with two female co-stars? Because Kajol, you know, she's been working with Karan Johar for some time now, and she has got her accreditation as a very, very good actress. And also Kareena, both of them are just as good as each other.
Yeah, sure.
So did you have any tough moments or any awkward moments on the set?
No, not at all. See, the thing is, when you have good actors who you work with, you cannot have a tough moment or a bad moment. You can only have a good experience, and because they make you feel comfortable, and that's the job of a actor. It's the bad actors who put you into trouble. The good actors, I mean, it's always easy to work with them. And I think these two are fantastic. Kareena gets her part, bang on. She's doing some great work in her career right now. She's in good form. Kajol is always in good form. This is her turf. When she cries, we cry. There's nothing. I mean, she's just brilliant in those scenes. The way she metamorphoses through the film is fantastic, and the kids were fantastic. So, when you make the film, you feel that energy, and you feed off that. You feed off each other. You help each other. Some days, if someone's low or whatever, it's your job to pick them up. It's part of acting. It's everybody has to forget about everything else. You've come here to do a job, and when you're there, you're just creating. And if you're creating with creative, good people, then your life becomes easier.
Was it difficult working with children? Because we don't really see you with children in many of your other movies, but with this movie you have three.
I did Dawn, which had a kid in it, and I did Rock On, which had a kid in it. And I think kids are the best energy to work with. To have kids even around just on the set is just fantastic energy. Because there's always some madness. And there's always some hecticness, and I like that. It's good because you can just walk away from something intense and just be with three of them and play and just come back completely fresh to the scene again. And these kids were fantastic. I mean, they were so professional. They got everything bang on. It never seemed like they were acting, which is great, and they've shot long hours. I don't know how they did it, but they grew, and they grew in size, and we tell them not to eat, and then we had lots of birthday parties, and it was just fab.
Oh, excellent stuff. So it seems like you enjoyed making the movie, and I hope people enjoy watching it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. It's the experience of making the film, and I think there's some great chemistry in this film. It's a film which touches you. It goes deeper. It's not frivolous. It's not a film you leave your brain or anything home. You come intact. You sit out there. You watch the movie, and you're going to take a lot back from the film. You take a lot back about. Sometimes, when you watch a film, it happens to me quite often where I'm in a state of mind and suddenly I get the answer while watching the film. I think We Are Family could do that to you. You go there and you're not really sure or certain about certain issues in your life, and you see them and you realize that it's not an issue anymore because there's so much more to life than little petty issues. And it just kind of disappears. And that's what I really like about the movie.
It tells you about the important things. Why did you actually sign this movie? Because these are the experiences you had during making the movie, during working with the children, working with your co-stars. But before even working with them, you signed the movie. What was the reason for that?
I think when I sign a film, the first thing I think to myself is, would I go watch this film myself? I would go and watch this film. I'd watch Stepmom with my mom, and secondly, I felt that this is definitely a story that should be told and should, come out there for people to see, because it has a really, really noble message. It's got good messages. It's heartwarming. It's endearing. And today there's too much. And I've done a lot of intense films and everything. And today there's a lot of just masala stuff that happens. I think that this has a little more weight on it, and it just comes in there. And even though it's super entertaining, it's still got a lot of things you can take back from. So I think that's the reason why I did the film, and I think when people see it, I hope we live up to all those things.
I hope so, but it's also very meaningful. It seems that the sense I'm getting from you, that it's a very meaningful movie as well.
Yes,
but
it
then
is,
once again, it's like Bollywood copying another Hollywood movie.
We're not copying it.
Is that right?
We're taking the rights. I mean, when you take Hollywood, they take a lot of rights of lots of films, and they convert it and they make it into their own. And as I told you before, it is not an identical copy. This is a much younger film, Okay, B, I mean the characters are far more, have been fleshed out a lot more.
Yeah.
Yes, that film had a situation, and it was about, a mother handing over something to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that transition what is maintained. But otherwise, I think it's a completely new film. I don't act like Ed Harris. Kareena doesn't act like Julia Roberts, and Kajol doesn't act like Susan Sarandon. They bring their own approach to it. So it's like doing almost a play, like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
With maybe Jude Law would play Romeo in a different way to how I'd play it, to how Shah Rukh would play it, to how Ranbir would play it, or Al Pacino would play it. So each one would bring their own take on those characters, how they perform, but the characters are the same. You know what I mean? So it's about that. When you do it, so that's why we say it. We're not saying we made our own film and it's an original film. We're saying, yes, this is a story. It's our adaptation of it, but it is how we would approach it. So that, I think, makes it more interesting.
You make it sound so interesting. I don't know what you're like now, but it just makes you make it sound really, really interesting. Now, it's fun to make, exciting to make, and also the characters are so much developed. What do you think is the strongest point about your character in the movie?
I think it's just the way he grows, and that how sensitive he is. He's the most unsympathetic character actually in the whole film. And my challenge was that can I make people feel for this guy, through all of this? Because 90% of people are just going to feel for Kajol's character, and at that point in time, can you make, from all that, can you bring out and say, no, this man is a noble man, and we could have been in that situation, and we would have done exactly what he's doing. So I think that to be a man, and to hold fort as a man, and to bring a dignity to it was a challenge that I was faced with.
It makes it seem really, really interesting now. It's like because it's such an intense subject as well, and very difficult because in an Indian background, it's 3 people living under the same roof, but then 2 women under the same roof as well. Was that difficult to handle, or did you anticipate any negative feedback because of that?
Well, I mean, people would, before you see the film, you would say, oh, what is this? And, how can you, and whatever. But when you see the film and with the situation and circumstances that it comes into the film, I think, you'd say, no, we would have it no other way. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, just because you're married on a piece of paper, okay, and doesn't mean that you have to spend the rest of your life with that person. Sometimes, unfortunately, things go wrong, and nothing is permanent, and I told you, change is inevitable. So you need to then just say and be dignified about it and say, okay, this is not working out, let's move on and go our separate ways. It's not that you didn't try. Everybody tries, like you try to make a good film. Nobody goes out there to make a bad film, but sometimes films don't work out. You try to do a good interview and sometimes you do a bad interview, okay? but things like that do happen, and you've got to take that and move on, So similarly in a marriage, if it doesn't work out, you're supposed to move on, and because I would rather be out of a bad marriage, okay, and be happy, than be in a bad marriage and be depressed and depress everybody around me as well, so I think at the end of the day we all search for happiness, and we all should do that, in this situation there are children involved, and which makes it more difficult, and then there's this situation that happens which makes it even more difficult, and they do not have any other option, so they all have to come under the same roof.
I wish I could talk to you for another hour or so, because it's so interesting to speak to you, and you have such a strong point of view about life. You have a strong feeling about your character in the movie as well. So I know I definitely want to watch the movie, but give us tell our audience why they should go and watch the movie.
Well, you should go watch the film because, as I told you earlier, if the men want to know how to handle two women under one roof, you should go watch this movie. But I'll tell you, this movie is for all of us because it's all about families. It's about, you know, multi-relationships, you know, and I think it puts a smile on your face. It touches your heart, and you know, I think you'll just come out there feeling refreshed. So go watch We Are Family.
Thank you very much for your time,
Thank
Arjun,
you.
and we wish you all the best
Thank
for the
you, Arjun.
movie. Thank you.